Okay, Bhagat, I think we're all set to begin. I think you may be muted.
I'm looking for my talking points. Would you have the, can you re-email it to me? I apologize.
Sure.
I got it. Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome.
So welcome everyone to the meeting. Thank you for attending. This is Bhagat Samakia, Chair of NY Creates. I'd like to welcome the directors to the meeting. As you all know, due to public health concerns, this meeting is being held via WebEx as authorized by executive order of the governor. A webcast is available for members of the public to listen to the meeting. We welcome those who are listening via webcast. I would like to ask everyone to mute their phones when they are not speaking to minimize background noise. Also, please identify yourself when speaking and when making a motion. For voting, we will call out each director's name for their vote so we can accurately record the votes. I will now do a roll call of the participants in today's meeting, beginning with the directors. Michael Abbott.
Present.
Christine Chung.
Present.
Michael Frame.
Present.
Franklin Hecht.
Present.
Dr. Mangling Shao.
Present.
Brad Johnson. Joan McDonald.
Present.
Kristen Proud. And Kenneth Tompkins.
Present.
I will now do a roll call for our member designees, starting with Kevin Younis, I apologize, Chief Operating Officer of Empire State Development, and he is the designee of the Chief Executive Officer of Empire State Development. And Dr. Todd Larson, Acting President of SUNY Polytechnic Institute, who's the designee of the Chancellor of the State University of New York.
Present.
I will now do a roll call of the officers who are participating in the meeting. Patricia Arciero Craig.
Present.
Paul Kelly.
Present.
Scott Bateman.
Present.
Timothy Taylor.
Present.
And Patricia Buckland.
Present.
So I'll now ask if anyone has a potential conflict of interest with respect to the item on today's agenda. If so, please make an appropriate disclosure on the record now, and please recuse yourself from any discussion or vote with regard to that item. We'd like to note for the record one item regarding the lease amendment with ASML US LLC, which is on today's agenda. NY Creates President Dr. Doug Gross, who is absent from today's meeting, served on the supervisory board of the parent company, which is ASML Holding, through April 29, 2021, and is presently an external advisor to one of its board committees. As a result, Dr. Gross recused himself from all discussions and all actions pertaining to such lease renewal in all of his roles with NY Creates and FRMC and ASML Holding NV. Any other potential conflicts? Hearing none, I would like to request approval of the minutes from the NY Creates meeting of March 29, 2021.
Dr. Samakia, it's Kristen Proud. I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second,
Franklin.
Christine Chung.
Thank you. I will now ask each director for their vote. Michael Abbott,
Aye.
Christine Chung,
Aye.
Michael Frame,
Aye.
Franklin Hecht,
Aye.
Dr. Meng Ling Xiao,
Aye.
Brad Johnson, Joan McDonald,
Aye.
Kristen Proud,
Aye.
and Kenneth Tompkins.
Aye.
And I would like to also vote, and my vote is aye. So the minutes are approved. And now we'll go to the Audit Committee report. I would like to introduce Michael Abbott, Chair of the Audit Committee, for the Audit Committee report.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate that. The first item we have on our agenda is approval of the tax filings for FRMC and FSMC. For each of those entities, we'll have a separate motion and vote on the approval. The background and the requested action will be a combined effort. Could I have a motion to consider and approve the tax filings for FRMC?
It's
So
Kristen.
moved by Ken.
Thank you. Could I have a second?
Second by Franklin.
Thank you. We'd also like to request a motion to consider and approve the tax filings for FSMC.
It's Kristen. So moved.
Thank you. Could I have a second, please?
Franklin will second.
Thank you very much. By way of background, Fuller Road Management Corporation and Fort Schuyler Management Corporation engaged KPMG to review their tax filings for the year ending on June 30th, 2020, pursuant to authorization by the board at its September 30th, 2020 meeting. The FRMC filings include IRS Form 990 and New York Char 500, and the FSMC filings include the IRS 990 and the New York Char 500, as well as a 900T and a CT13. KPMG has now completed its review of these tax filings, and draft tax filings were provided to the board in advance of the meeting. The Audit Committee approved resolutions for both FRMC and FSMC that are described in the memorandum provided to the board in advance of the meeting, including recommendations that the board approve the same actions. The requested action is approve resolutions for FRMC and FSMC. 1, approving the tax filings subject to and conditional upon completion of the remaining administrative items, if any, and to the satisfaction of the chair of the audit committee. 2, approving and authorizing the president, treasurer, and chief financial officer, each of them without the other, on behalf of the corporation, to execute, acknowledge, and deliver the aforesaid tax filings with such changes, variations, omissions, and assertions as the officer of the corporation signing the same shall approve, the execution thereof by such officer to constitute conclusive evidence of such approval. And 3, approving and authorizing the president, treasurer, and chief financial officer, each of them without the other, on behalf of the corporation, to take such actions as are necessary and appropriate, including the execution, acknowledgement, and delivery of other documents and agreements as may be necessary or appropriate to implement and carry out the purposes and intent of the resolution. Is there any discussion of the matter? Hearing none, I will ask each director for the vote on the motion for FRMC. Christine?
Aye.
Thank you. Michael?
Aye.
Franklin?
Aye.
Dr. Mengling?
Aye.
Brad?
Aye.
Joan?
Aye.
Kristen?
Aye.
Dr. Bagat?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
And I also vote in the affirmative. The ayes have it and the motion is adopted. I would also like to ask each director for their vote on the motion for FSMC. Christine?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Franklin?
Aye.
Dr. Mengling?
Aye.
Brad,
Aye.
Joan,
Aye.
Kristen,
Aye.
Dr. Bagat,
Aye.
Ken,
Aye.
and I also vote in the affirmative. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. Thank you. The next item you have before you is the New York Creates Resolution Number 8, FRMC Resolution Number 175, and FSMC Resolution Number 198, authorization to engage the auditors for New York Creates, FRMC, and FSMC. I'd like to ask for a motion to consider and approve the New York Creates Resolution Number 8, FRMC Resolution Number 175, and FSMC Resolution Number 198, all authorizing the engagement of an auditor.
Moved by Mengling.
Seconded by Kristen.
Thank you. Background, the bylaws of New York Creates, FRMC, and FSMC each provide that the financial statements of the corporation shall be audited annually by a certified public accounting firm approved by the board of directors. The corporations issued an RFP in October 2020 seeking annual financial statement auditing and review of tax filing services for an initial term of 3 years with 2 additional 1-year renewals upon mutual agreement. Following a competitive procurement conducted in accordance with the corporation's procurement policy guidelines, the selection committee recommended that an award be made to KPMG. Corporations now seek authorization to engage KPMG to perform the audit and to review their tax filings for a term stated above, beginning with the year ending June 30th, 2021, and for any audit-related projects as may be necessary, and enter into an associated contracts with KPMG for such services. The audit committee approved resolutions for the 3 firms. 1, approving and authorizing the corporations to engage KPMG to audit the New York Creates, FRMC, and FSMC financial statements as part of the consolidated audit of New York Creates, and to review their tax filings for a term of 3 years with 2 additional 1-year renewals upon mutual agreement of the parties, beginning with the year ending June 30th, 2021, and perform any other related projects as may be necessary, and to enter into any associated contracts with KPMG for such services. 2, approving and authorizing the President, Treasurer, and Chief Financial Officer, each of them without the other, on behalf of such corporation, to execute, acknowledge, and deliver any associated agreements with such engagements, with such changes, variations, omissions, and insertions as the officer of such corporation signing the same shall approve, the execution thereof by such officer to constitute conclusive evidence of such approval. And 3, approving and authorizing the President, Treasurer, and Chief Financial Officer, each of them without the other, on behalf of each corporation, to take such actions as necessary and appropriate, including the execution, acknowledgement, and delivery of other documents and agreements as be necessary or appropriate to implement and carry out the purposes and intents of these resolutions, and recommend that the board approve the action. The requested action is to approve the 3 resolutions: New York Creates Resolution Number 8, FRMC Resolution Number 175, and FSMC Resolution Number 198. Is there any discussion of the matter? I would now ask each director for their vote on the motion. Christine?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Franklin?
Aye.
Dr. Mengling?
Aye.
Brad?
Aye.
Joan? Oh, thank you, Brad. Joan?
Aye.
Kristen?
Aye.
Dr. Bagat?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
And I also vote in the affirmative. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. Thank you very much. I'll return it back to Chair Samakia. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I would now like to introduce Kristen Proud, Chair of the Finance Committee, for the Finance Committee report.
Good afternoon, everyone.
The first item on the Finance Committee report agenda is the agreement for generator maintenance. I would ask for a motion to consider and adopt a resolution approving and ratifying an agreement for generator maintenance.
So moved, Christine Chung.
Thank you, Christine. Is there a second, please?
Second, Ken.
Second.
Thank you. So by way of background, FRMC entered into a 3-year agreement with Cummins Northeast LLC for annual preventive maintenance and batteries for 2 generators, which are located at the Nanotech campus. The agreement is for $22,871.57, and it was based on a procurement conducted in accordance with FRMC's procurement policy guidelines. FRMC now seeks ratification and approval of the agreement. Finance Committee approved the resolution described in the memorandum that was provided to the board in advance of this meeting actions. Same actions. So
Kristen,
execution of the agreement and all acts.
you're cutting in and out. Can you hear us? You're cutting in
Okay,
and out.
I think my internet connection here in the office is not stable. Sorry.
Perhaps if you stop the video, then
The requested action is to approve and ratify FRMC's execution of the agreement and all acts of any officers of the corporation that were taken or made with respect to the agreement, and approve, authorize, and empower the president, treasurer, and chief financial officer, and each of them without the other on behalf of the corporation to take such actions as are necessary and appropriate, including the execution, acknowledgement, and delivery of other agreements or documents as may be necessary or appropriate to implement and carry out the purposes and intents of this resolution. Is there any discussion or are there any questions about the resolution? Okay, hearing none. Well, I'll now ask each director for his or her vote on the motion, starting with Michael Abbott.
Aye.
Christine Chung,
Aye.
Michael Frame,
Aye.
Franklin Hecht,
Aye.
Dr. Mengling Shao,
Aye.
Brad Johnson, Joan McDonald,
Aye.
Dr. Bhagat Samakia,
aye.
Ken Tompkins.
Aye.
And I would also like to be recorded in the affirmative. The ayes have it and the motion is adopted. The next item is a lease amendment with DPS Group, Inc. Is there a motion to consider and adopt a resolution to approve a lease amendment with DPS?
This is Joan. I'm so moved.
Thank you, Joan. Is there a second?
Second, Franklin.
Thank you, Franklin. So DPS currently leases 7,500 square feet of office space located in the Zen building, and DPS seeks to lease an additional approximately 4,100 square feet of office space adjacent to its current space. The lease for the entire space will extend to March 17, 2028. The tenant will have an option to extend the lease for 1 year and an option to terminate the lease on and after the 3rd anniversary of the date of commencement of the lease. The rent for the entire space will be $33 per square foot. That includes maintenance and operating expenses for the common areas as well as utilities, beginning 4 months after the date of commencement. The tenant will also pay separately for parking. FRMC will pay a tenant allowance of $480,000 towards fit-up and other tenant allowances. The proposed lease represents a small fraction of the total Zen building space. Therefore, an appraisal of the fair market value of the asset is not practical. Staff has determined that the lease meets fair market value based on other existing leases in this building. The Finance Committee approved the resolution described in the memorandum provided to the board in advance of this meeting, including recommending that the board approve the same actions. So the proposed action is approve a resolution 1, approving and authorizing the corporation to enter into an amendment to the lease with DPS on the terms stated above. 2, approving and authorizing the president, treasurer, and the chief financial officer, each of them without the other, on behalf of the corporation, to execute, acknowledge, and deliver the aforesaid amendment with such changes, variations, omissions, and insertions as the officer of the corporation signing same shall approve. The execution thereof by such officer to constitute conclusive evidence of such approval. And 3, approving and authorizing the president, treasurer, and chief financial officer, each of them without the other, on behalf of the corporation, to take such actions as are necessary and appropriate, including the execution, acknowledgement, and delivery of other documents and agreements as may be necessary or appropriate to implement and carry out the purposes and intents of the resolution. Are there any questions or comments about this resolution? Hearing none, we'll move to the vote, beginning with Michael Abbott,
Aye.
Christine Chung,
Aye.
Michael Frame,
Aye.
Franklin Hecht,
Aye.
Dr. Mengling Shao,
Aye.
Brad Johnson,
Aye.
Joan McDonald,
Aye.
Dr. Samakia,
Aye.
Ken Tompkins.
Aye.
And I would also like to be recorded in the affirmative, please. The ayes have it, and this motion is adopted. The third item from the Finance Committee is a lease with Commerce Technologies LLC. This time I would ask for a motion to consider and adopt a lease with Commerce Technologies LLC.
So moved by Mengling.
Thank you. A second, please.
Second, Franklin.
Thank you, Franklin. So Commerce Technologies currently occupies office space in the Zen Building and a data center and tech room in NanoFab South. Commerce Technologies is exercising an option in its lease to terminate the lease for this space as of November 16th, 2021. Commerce Technologies now seeks to enter into a new lease for the data center and tech room that it currently occupies, and this lease would be effective November 17, 2021. Commerce Technologies will lease 1,552 square feet of space in NanoFab South, including 1,188 square feet of data center space and 364 square feet of tech room space. The term of the lease is 36 months, with an option to extend for 2 additional 12-month terms. The tenant has a right to terminate the lease after 2 years, subject to a termination penalty. Rent is $121.21 per square foot for the data center space and $19.78 for the tech room space. The rent includes operating expenses as well as utilities. Rent will increase annually by a CPI escalator, but will not exceed a 3% increase annually. The proposed lease represents a small fraction of the total building. Therefore, an appraisal of the fair market value of the asset is not practical. Staff has determined that the lease meets fair market value based on other existing leases on the Nanotech campus. So the requested action this afternoon is approve a resolution 1, approving and authorizing the corporation to enter into a lease with Commerce Technologies on the terms stated above. 2, approving and authorizing the president, treasurer, and chief financial officer, each of them without the other, on behalf of the corporation, to execute, acknowledge, and deliver the aforesaid lease with such changes, variations, omissions, and insertions as the officer of the corporation signing same shall approve. The execution thereof by such officer to constitute conclusive evidence of such approval. And 3, approving and authorizing the president, treasurer, and chief financial officer, each of them without the other, on behalf of the corporation, to take such actions as are necessary and appropriate, including the execution, acknowledgement, and delivery of other documents and agreements as may be necessary or appropriate to implement and carry out the purposes and intents of the resolution. Is there any discussion or are there any questions regarding this resolution? Hearing none, we'll move to the vote. Michael Abbott,
Aye.
Christine Chung,
Aye.
Michael Frame,
Aye.
Franklin Hecht,
Aye.
Dr. Mengling Shao,
Aye.
Brad Johnson,
Aye.
Joan McDonald,
Aye.
Dr. Samakia,
Aye.
Ken Tompkins,
Aye.
And I would also like to be recorded in the affirmative. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The next item from the Finance Committee is a lease amendment with ASML US LLC. Could I have a motion, please, to consider and adopt a lease amendment with ASML US?
So moved, Ken.
Thank you, Ken. A second, please.
Second, Franklin.
Thank you, Franklin. So ASML has leased 1,124 square feet of office space in NanoFab South since 2013. ASML seeks to renew the lease, which expired on April 30th, 2021, for a 4-year term with an option to extend for up to 2 12-month periods. The rent is $25.50 per square foot, which includes utilities as well as operating expenses, plus parking. The rent will increase by 3% per year. The proposed lease represents a small fraction of the total building. Therefore, an appraisal of the fair market value of the asset is not practical. Staff has determined that the lease meets fair market value based on other existing leases on the Albany Nanotech campus.
337-3497.
The requested action this afternoon is to approve a resolution 1, authorizing approval of a lease amendment with ASML under the terms described above, and 2, approving and authorizing the president, treasurer, and chief financial officer, each of them without the other, on behalf of the corporation, to execute, acknowledge, and deliver the documents and agreements associated with the lease amendment with such changes, variations, omissions, and insertions as the officer of such corporation signing same shall approve. The execution thereof by such officer to constitute conclusive evidence of such approval, and to take such actions as are necessary and appropriate, including the execution, acknowledgement, and delivery of other documents and agreements as may be necessary or appropriate to implement and carry out the purposes of this and intents of this resolution. Are there any questions or is there any discussion regarding this resolution? Hearing none, we will move to the vote on the motion. Michael Abbott,
Aye.
Christine Chung,
Aye.
Michael Frame,
Aye.
Franklin Hecht,
Aye.
Dr. Chow,
Aye.
Brad Johnson,
Aye.
Joan McDonald,
Aye.
Dr. Samakia,
Aye.
Ken Tompkins,
Aye.
and I would also like to be recorded in the affirmative. The ayes have it, and this motion is adopted. This time, I would like to turn the meeting back over to Dr. Samakia.
Thank you, Kristen. Is there any new business to be considered? Given the change in meeting logistics due to public health concerns, we notified the public of the opportunity to send in comments via email prior to the meeting, and we did not receive any comments. The schedule for the next meeting is to be determined, and once finalized, it will be posted on the website. At this point, I'd like to ask if there is any further business. Hearing none, I would like to have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank
Take care,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Thanks, everyone.